Morning, all, on this very not so bright and sunny Saturday morning in Ifield. Um, as you can see, it's a very unpleasant day in April. But what can you do when you live in the UK, eh? Now, uh, I went to my local branch of CEX last week, and I managed to pick up both uh, War for Cybertron and War for Cybertron and Fall of Cybertron. Both Transformers games, as you can see, with Prime on the front and obviously Prime, Grimlock, and I think that's Bumblebee and Metroplex on that one. Now, I'm going to be honest, this... Right, I'm going to break this down into two sections. So, first thing first, alright. I played this one first. I did it in chronological order of 1 and then 2. This one basically starts off with being broken into 5 different sections. So the first half, 5 of Decepticon, 5 of Autobots. I'm going to give this a really bad review, by the way, because I've only been up for half an hour because I went out drinking last night and I'm a bit tired. So you get to choose on every level. There are 3 characters. So primarily you get to play as Optimus Prime or Megatron. Then you get into things like the aerial bots, so people like Starscream, Thundercracker, Skywarp. And then on the other side you get Jetfire. 2 others I can't remember the names of. Then you get the sort of ground assault, so people like Ironhide, that sort of stuff. And at the end of each campaign, on the fifth level of each faction, I suppose, you have to fight what I would call their big guns. Now, on the Decepticon one, you have to fight Omega Supreme, and I found him really quite easy. However, on the Autobot side, you have to fight Tripticon, and I find him unbelievably difficult to fight. There's a big problem with this game, and I think it's been rectified in the second one, where you move quite slowly, and although you can upgrade your weapons, it's kind of like, well, it's not really worth it, because it doesn't really add to anything. It's like, if you, for instance, play anything like, Mega Man, for instance. You can upgrade all the weapons, or you can go to, like, those little shops, and you can upgrade, like, buy parts and do all sorts of stuff. Another example is Dead Space 1 and 2. You can go and buy, or you find power nodes, and then you use them to upgrade specific items you have in your weapons list, or your suit that you're wearing, you can upgrade it. That I understand, and that does actually make a difference. But in this, it doesn't. Don't get me wrong, I like the fact that you can turn into the robot mode, and then the vehicle mode. That is quite cool. But again, it's not the greatest. And a lot of people, I believe, because I've read a couple of reviews about it before I bought this, have all said the same thing. It can be a bit clunky, because I'm playing this, as you can see, on my PS3. I've only got PS3 now. For my main console, anyway. You can obviously do, depends on the character as well. Some of them you can float around. Some, like, specifically the aerial bots, they can turn into robot mode and just hover or move around. Even in plane mode, they can just hover like the old Harrier jump jet kind of idea. Then you've got people like Prime and Megatron. They can kind of do like a dash move, where they can jump in the air and then dash in any direction. So that kind of stuck with both games. I've already talked about weapons. So the basics on this is the one player. It takes 5 gigs minimum to upload this. Now, this is the other problem I have with this game, and it's before you can even play it every single time. The load up screen has to load all these trophies and then all these, like, all the settings and everything, and sometimes it can take a good 5, maybe. On the first time I played it, it took 10 minutes just to load. That's even after I installed it and started it. And that I found really annoying because if, for instance, you had an hour to play it, well, my PlayStation, my PlayStation takes a couple of minutes to load up, then start the game. So that's close 5 minutes. Then you've got to wait for the intro screen to do this. Then that takes about 20 seconds. Then I had to wait a good 10 minutes after it had installed, and this is every time since, for it to finish load. So that's already 3/4 of an hour left. Yeah, 15 minutes gone, 3/4 of an hour to go. And then if you don't get to a point where the game automatically saves, then you're really quite stuffed. Um, out, I mean, out of 10, 10 being this is the most greatest thing in the world, 1 being it's when you look at it, I would give this probably about a 5 for the points I put across. Now, Fall of Cybertron, however, I have literally finished in the last 15 minutes. I prefer this one over this massively. I think they've worked out the kinks in this. For instance, before you can play any level on this one, you have to pick your person, and then obviously you're stuck with that one until you either die or you restart the level. This one, however, you literally get that character. Now, there are a couple of levels where it suddenly swaps, but you have to obviously tell it to swap by doing a command, which, for instance, there's you have to fight as Starscream. No, tell her. You fight off as a random Decepticon, sort of underling. Then you turn to Starscream. Then you turn to Grimlock, and then after that, you just kind of go on. Then on the very last level, I won't obviously spoil it. In major detail, anyway. You start off as, get this right. I've just bloody done this. You start off as Soundwave, then you go to Jetfire, then you go to Bruticus, then you go to Jazz, and then you have to pick either Prime or Megatron for the final fight. And do you know what? I think this game was infinitely better than the first one. I would actually give this one a 8.5, near enough a 9, because they've kind of worked out all the clinks. I didn't swear. All little problems, I should say. One of them being the character select and the mode changing. There are some places where you actually can't change because it could be things like confined spaces or whatever. So they've taken into their account. Whereas on the other one, you kind of could. And it's kind of like, well, you've got very little room, but suddenly you're going to turn into a truck or a plane or whatever. The main characters in this that I really liked playing were Prime, Grimlock, Megatron, and actually Bruticus. There was one character, and I can't for the life of it remember his name, but he's like a helicopter that turns into a jet, and it kind of reminds me of, I don't know if most people who are on here remember the cartoon Mask. Mayhem, the kind of general in this, his Mask vehicle was a helicopter that could turn into a plane, and it reminded me of that, but a much better and smoother way of doing it. And that character I really liked. Like I said, Grimlock is really good because all the other characters you can turn back and forth at will, but Grimlock's one you can't. You have to think, right, his special ability is to turn into his dinosaur in his T-Rex mode. But you have to get fuel, as it were, along the way to charge it up so that you can actually turn into it. And then I think you have about a minute before obviously you run out, and then obviously you have to go and find more fuel, etc. That I actually really, really liked. And when he's in his robot mode, he is pretty much unstoppable. But even in his armor mode, he's absolutely enormous, and he's pretty damn tough. I only got killed once because there are these characters called Leapers. Guess what they do? And I'd only ever fought them with bullet weapons, and they are really easy to kill with guns and such. But I'd never faced them, actually having to attack them with a sword in this particular case. So that one took a little bit of extra time to figure out the pattern. And I just kept getting pushed off this bridge, which was really annoying, but I managed to do it quite quickly once I worked out the pattern. It's not difficult. That one I think is really, really good. There's an episode where you, like I said, you play a Starscream and you have to go around this city and deactivate these EMP points. And the rooms that you have to go to have all got holes in the ceiling. Imagine like a dome that's been squashed, kind of like sort of that sort of shape. And they've all got holes in the ceiling. And they are usually full of Decepticons, as you imagine. And they've all got, some of them have got connecting tunnels that you have to walk through. But then I found the easier way to get through this is, and you can tell I've watched a lot of films about this sort of stuff, is there are a load of windows that you can blow up. So what I ended up doing was blowing up one of the windows once I killed all the people in the room, jumped out, transformed into my plane mode, flew up, and then when you're not flying around, you kind of turn into this like hover conversion type thing. And in the end, so imagine very loosely, that's the roof. What I was doing was so obviously you can go in there and then attack in robot mode, because you can't go in there and then just fly around and shoot everything, because that's a bit silly. So what I ended up doing was going up, pointing completely vertically, but facing downwards, right over the hole, and then just carpet bombing it with rockets, because you could see all the Decepticons in the room at the time, and then taking out a good 9 out of the 10 of them. There were 1 or 2 that are clever enough to be too far back, because these are quite big rooms, but doing it that way just mashed them really well. And it was kind of like, yeah, I really playing. I'm like, yeah, I've watched too many films and this sort of stuff. For reference, see a film called Stealth, you'll know, and a scene called The Dive Bomb, you'll know what I'm talking about. So, and then you have to, another little difference in this one is that you get to play with Metroplex. Now, Metroplex is this absolutely, I think he is the biggest, he's like a city-sized Transformer. He's not Unicron-sized, not even by a mile. But there are these kind of tanks that come in at one point, because there's always, like in this one, there are a lot of points where you have to face off like hordes of whichever opposite faction you're fighting against. And it can sometimes be really, really long and really boring. And that was the other thing about this one, is the story is really actually quite dull after a while, because you think, right, well, this is happening. Right, I've done this bit, and then it's a very long time before anything really kicks in, and then obviously that's it. Whereas this one, the story runs through the whole thing. There's multiple stories, which is a nice difference. But back to the hordes. There's one scene where Megatron is using these things called warp cannons. If ever you've played Quake 2, the big gun in that, kind of that sort of idea. And you have to use Metroplex. Prime has to use Metroplex after he's transformed him to kind of point off targets, and then use his cannons to basically annihilate them. And then you use him to kill Megatron by punching him basically to death. But then later on, Megatron gets rebuilt by Soundwave. Like I said, I would give Fall of Cybertron about 8.5, near enough a 9, because of the major improvements on this. And I like the fact that Teletran 1's in it, which it isn't in the first one. So, if you've played this, then if you played either, let me know what you think. Now, yes, I'm aware that my reviews aren't spectacular. I'm not a professional at this. I do this just for the fun of it. So please be nice in the comments. I have had some really horrible ones lately, and I don't appreciate it. Like I said, if you're going to buy these two, by all means go and buy them. They are good games to play. But this one is far better than this one, and that is my own personal opinion. Both of them are 12 rated. This one takes 5 gig minimum, like I said. This one takes 2.1, which explains why this one loads a lot quicker than this one. I don't know why the difference is. Both DualShocks, both require 720p PAL to run. You can play on both, like a multiplayer / co-op type thing. I haven't done it because I've got no one I can really play with. Very few people I'm actually connected to on my PS network, and I'm pretty certain they don't have this game. They're more like driving and sort of battlefield games rather than these types. Yeah, basically both produced by. No, I'll tell you lie. This one is produced by High Noon Studios, and this one is by. No, sorry, my bad. Both are High Noon Studios. Both endorsed by Hasbro. So yeah, that is my review of both Transformers Fall of Cybertron and War for Cybertron. So like I said, if you have any opinions on them, and please, like I said, please be nice. Let me know in the comments. What other games should I get? At the moment, I've got Crisis 3, and I've completed all of them. Crisis 3, Tomb Raider, Dante's Inferno, all of the God of War series. God, I shouldn't have said this. So actually, I'll just show you. This is my PlayStation collection. So you got Tomb Raider, God of War 1 and 2, God of War Ascension, God of War 3, Dead Space 1, 2, and 3, Alien Isolation. Fantastic game. If you ever get around to playing it and you like horror films and that sort of stuff, very worth playing. Darksiders 1 and 2, Bayonetta. I haven't played the second one. I don't know if it's any good. The first one I found a bit boring after a while, but again, it is what it is. Deadpool. Batman Arkham City. Now, I originally had Arkham Asylum and didn't really like it, so I swapped it for that one. I want to play Arkham Knight, but I haven't got a PS4, as you can see, and I can't afford to buy one. So, I've watched all the reviews of it, so I know what it's like. Duke Nukem, good little first-person shooter. Vanquish was the very first game I bought for my PS3, and I can still just play away, and I'm just quite happy because it's just a nice little sort of, it's going to be difficult, but it's still enjoyable. Finally, you got Castlevania, Lords of Shadow, and finally, Dante's Inferno. And then some games I got given were Buzz, the movie quiz, Buzz Quiz Up, and Crisis 3 I bought a while back. So yeah, that is my collection. Any suggestions I'm open to taking. But apart from that, I'm going to sign off and go get breakfast because it's like 11:30 and I've only been up for like a little while, not that long. And that is that. So I will bid you adieu. Hooray.